What'd you think, Brant? Michigan 1-0. They take down Fresno State 30-10. Certainly wasn't the game that I think all Michigan fans were hoping for. Left us with a lot of questions, I'm sure, which I want to talk about. What this means for Texas. Huge game of the week here in college football coming up here in just a few days. But I got to know, Brant, the good, the bad, the ugly, overreactions. I want all of it. Your thoughts on Fresno State and what you saw from this Michigan football team.
First reaction, we looked better than Oregon. Second reaction is this quarterback room is solved for now, but I don't think it's a solution. And what I mean by that is I've got to see more from Davis Warren. I think what happened to Michigan was it was Alex Orji in the spring. It was Alex Orji early fall camp. It was Alex Orji / David Warren midway through camp. And then this team had to go with Davis Warren down the stretch because Alex Orji didn't take the job. I think they wanted him to take the job. I think this offense all offseason was built around Alex Orji and what he can do. I think that this coaching staff was disappointed halfway through fall camp and decided, this ain't it, man. We cannot go out here with Alex Orji and the way that he's throwing the football right now and feel confident that we can get by Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, those types of games. And I think if they knew that back in the spring, this offseason would have went much differently as far as maybe another transfer quarterback or maybe even a different wide receiver room. Like they could have went after some other pieces that maybe would have worked for this. I just think they were planning on running the ball much more with Alex Orji, and it hasn't turned out to be that, Dave. And my other overreaction is this offense has got to find an identity. And maybe that's not an overreaction, Dave. Maybe that's just a reaction because this offense didn't seem to know what to do without Colston Loveland. If Colston Loveland wasn't on this football team right now, we might be 0-1 to Fresno. He saved him on several different occasions. I mean, it didn't matter if he was lined up against a linebacker. It didn't matter if he was on a DB. He was cooking DBs is how well he was playing. So I think that this offense has got to find an identity. We've known what it's been for the last 3 years under Jim Harbaugh. It was a ground and pound, smash mouth football, and that worked really well. This offense doesn't know what it is right now, Dave.
My takeaway was our defense is national caliber. That is a national caliber defense right there. And they weren't perfect by any means.
National championship caliber, right?
Yes. Okay. Oh, yeah. National championship caliber. Sorry. That's the ceiling of that defense. I don't think anybody can argue that with the talent that they have. And it wasn't a perfect game by any means. I want to talk about Wink Martindale in a second. I am terrified of what the floor of this offense is because the floor of this offense is Iowa bad. And what scares me is the ceiling is top 40, top 50. I mean, I don't see it getting that much better, Brant. I'm not faulting Davis Warren. He won the job. I think you're spot on with, I think the coaching staff thought it was going to be Orji, wanted it to be Orji. And clearly, I mean, we saw 2 passes. I mean, I think that's an overreaction, right? Like one pass a touchdown, one pass we know is like 10 feet short into the ground, like he's bouncing a basketball. It wasn't good. But maybe a bit of an overreaction. I don't know. Is his passing that bad? It could be. And if it is, I don't want to see it. And I see why they went with Davis Warren. He throws a good football. He underthrew the one. Whatever. Things happen. I thought he looked fine. But I'm frustrated. Maybe we did go out in the transfer portal and sort of look around. I don't know. I never read any reports of that. Sure wish we did. Because I'm concerned. But I think it's easy to focus on the quarterback position. I have questions about the offensive line. Now that's an overreaction. This offensive line will be fine. Look back at Michigan over the last few years. They have started this way, and they continuously get better as this offensive line continues to gel. You put 5 new starters out there, and it did not look good. It didn't look elite by any means. It looked average at best. So I've got questions there. On the defense, look, here's an overreaction, Brant. Wink Martindale, Don Brown 2.0. I'm hearing people say it. because of the blitzing, because we're not comfortable just with our four guys up front, because of the cover zero on the touchdown there. I mean, there were some questionable things. I think that's a bit of an overreaction. I think we need to see what this defense looks like, because truthfully, they look pretty dang good. They did give up the one touchdown. Will Johnson did overcommit a couple of times trying to make the big play. Well, the big play eventually happened, pick six to kind of seal the game at the end. But those are things that are going to get cleaned up. The talent on this defense is insane. It's national championship good, like I said, and I feel confident in that. My last takeaway, Donovan Edwards, man. I don't know how many times we're going to try to square peg round hole this guy. It doesn't work. He's not a between the tackles runner. I mean, thank God Khalil Mullings is, because he looked good. He reminds me of like a Hassan Haskins. They have that. It's that whatever. I know we use the thunder and lightning thing probably at length with the Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards pairing, and they're certainly not that. But Donovan, if there was ever a time to show up, Don, is going to be against Texas. And there's one thing we know about Donovan Edwards: he shows up in the big moments. It's all the other stuff that we need to be able to do, whether it's a missed block, or whether it's not going down after the first hit. I mean, he did not have a good game by any means. Khalil Mullings did, though. So am I a little bit at ease with the running game? Yes. Am I worried about it? No, I'm not. I think long-term, they'll be fine. They'll figure it out. And then these wide receivers got to create separation. They've got to get open. They've got to run cleaner routes. And they've got to give Davis Warren something to work with. The timing was not there on several routes. Davis Warren went through which looked like his first progression and seemed to get rid of the ball. I think there's probably some nerves in that too. I mean, I don't think he started a football game since 2019. Great story, by the way. A super feel-good story, Davis Warren and his battle with leukemia. I mean, I'm thrilled for him, man. I think will be a great face for this team. He will hopefully be good enough. I think this defense can win you every game on the schedule. They're that good. The offense, though, it's got to be competent. It wasn't competent Saturday night. It's got to be a lot better against Texas. And so, Brant, I want to go there next. Texas, yes, they played Colorado State. It was a blowout. Texas looked really good. They do what Texas does. And I want to know what your thoughts are heading into, to this Saturday, which has been a game, truthfully, that since we knew Michigan was going to host Texas in Ann Arbor, I think Michigan and Texas fans and college football fans have had this game circled. So I want to know your thoughts.
Yeah, Dave, Texas is really good, and we know that. But Texas does a lot of RPO stuff. They do a lot of creative stuff when they go to run the football. I think that they're going to try to move this defensive line around and make that defensive line work to the edges, rally to the football. And one thing to look for this weekend is can you get Quinn Ewers off script? Because I think Quinn Ewers has a little gunslinger in him. He's got a little wants to make every play work, doesn't want to live for the next down type mentality. And if you watched him against Colorado State, he had a couple of plays where he had no business trying to make a play, but dude's just out there trying to ball, and I get it, and it ended up costing them. And Michigan, with being an opportunistic defense, Dave, they're going to want to go after the ball. They're going to want to be ball hawks, and they're going to want to take the ball away from Texas. One thing to look for is Michigan ran some man-to-man this weekend. Not really their forte. This team over the last couple years under Minter and McDaniel have been a little more zone heavy, and I would expect for that trend to continue. I don't think that they wanted to put a lot of zone on tape for Texas and what they're going to do, mixing it up with the different blitzers or stuff like that. But, Dave, we know that our linebackers can cover, certainly do. So I expect for this to be more of a zone-heavy game for Michigan. Try to drop into those zones, make Quinn throw the ball into, drop it into certain windows where the zone's not, and make them really work for it. The second thing that they're going to have to do is take Blue away. And we all know about Blue. He's their best back right now. He's a scat back. He does all the things for them. And, Dave, he is lightning quick. And if he gets out of the backfield, it's going to be a mess. So keeping him contained is going to be of the utmost importance. And this Texas defense is good. It's not great. They lost a lot of guys to the NFL too. Their secondary hasn't been tested yet, but I would say their front seven is the strength of their team. So they're going to try to load that box. They're going to say, Davis Warren, you can come try to beat us. And we're going to see if Davis Warren can beat him, Dave.
I think that's you're spot on. That they are going to make Davis Warren beat them, and we are going to learn a lot about this offense quickly here into the season in just a few days. I also, Texas loves to run the RPO. I think you'll see that early on too. Brant, there were times in this Fresno State game where there were receivers open in the middle of the field, and that terrifies me with what Quinn Ewers can do and Isaiah Bond and those guys. I mean, I think that Michigan, and this is kind of the last point here, I think Michigan's good enough to win this football game. I do. While critical of the Fresno State opener, and I know it sounds like a lot of overreactions, this is a good football team. There's experience on this football team. Even though they have had to replace a ton of guys, they're good enough. But this offense is going to, Brant, if they don't score, I'll venture to say, if they don't score at least 27 points, they don't win this game. I don't see it. The spread is continuing to move in Texas's direction. The last I saw, I mean, this game not long ago was, I think, 3.5 points. It's up to 7.5. I mean, it's moving in Vegas right now in the Texas direction. I have a hard time believing, and maybe I'm just trying to convince myself of this. I have a hard time believing that Texas is going to come into the big house and blow the socks off Michigan. Could they beat Michigan? Absolutely. Are they favored for a reason? Absolutely. But it is trending in a direction right now where I feel pretty good as a Michigan fan looking at that and what people are saying to know that this team is good enough to beat a team like Texas.
Dave, the last thing I'll end on is we talk about the Michigan defensive line and maybe where this game can be the changer of it all. Well, Derek Moore and Josiah Stewart had great games. They actually ranked top 5 as top PFF ranking in the entire NCAA from the weekend. So those are two guys that are going to absolutely let it rip on the edges. And if they can get to Quinn, I think that he'll make the ultimate mistakes in the end of the game. But I see this one close throughout, Dave. I think we're going to get an absolute dogfight of a game, and everyone should be pumped for it because Michigan hasn't done this in the past 3 years. We haven't taken on any real challengers. It's about time we get a top 10 matchup, whether it's at home or on the road. I don't care. I'm thankful it's here, Dave.